So I'm excited to continue this conversation about quitting drinking. I have been blown away by all of the recent views and comments and just conversation that has come from my Why I Quit Drinking video. And today I get to introduce you to one of my main inspirations for getting sober, my mother-in-law. I happen to have the world's best mother-in-law. And I'm not the only one that thinks so. So many people have said that to me over the years, the 27 years that I've known Jane. And I can honestly say that I can't imagine my life without Jane. So I'm very excited that you get to meet her and that she is so excited and willing to share her sobriety story. So Jane, tell us, why did you get sober?
I am so excited that you asked me to talk about one of my most favorite topics, me. No, really about sobriety, but this is also a topic very, very close to my heart and very important to me. Big, big change in my life to be a sober person. And I will be sober for 25 years next July.
Wow. So how old were you when you actually quit drinking?
I got sober when I was 48 years old. I had 10 years before decided that I might have a problem with alcohol and looked hard at sobriety. And it's pretty fascinating that I didn't get sober, went to some meetings and went back to drinking. I'll back up some time and talk about my early years. I started drinking as a teenager when I had opportunities to, I guess what you call party, get together with other young people and drink. And I had found out early on, maybe as early as 12, that I loved the taste of alcohol. A neighbor had given me a shot of whiskey and I drank it, went to bed and laid there thinking, oh my God, I finally feel okay. Isn't that friggin' amazing?
I just learned something. I did not know you had your first drink when you were 12, just like me.
I probably didn't have alcohol again till I was about 16. But I cannot hide the fact that there was a focus there. There was a big change when I was about 28. I remember that someone left a gallon of white wine in my refrigerator. So I thought, oh, I'll just taste this. And then like from that day on, I was drinking a couple of glasses of wine. I don't know how big they were. White wine every day, and it became daily drinking. And there was a real concern that I had. It wasn't like I was just having a great time. It was a concern about that behavior. Also noticing when I got together with other people that I would drink too much and be hungover. But I had a pretty good capacity, mostly worried about what people thought was, what is this? What's happening to me? Also, my life got a little more complicated. I had 2 children at that time. I was able to not drink at all during pregnancies. Of course, that means you're not an alcoholic if you don't drink when you're pregnant. And went on to have twins when I was, I think 32. Certainly no alcohol until the minute they were born. And back out there drinking on a daily basis, except when I beat myself up so much and would quit for a week or so, or 2 weeks, or maybe 3 weeks, and then start up again. The drinking behavior affected my life in a big way that I was hungover. The alcohol gave me a chance to unwind, to forget my troubles, compensate for being a really busy mom with 4 children, 5 and under. There was that gift, really, that alcohol did a great job on me. The other side of that coin was that I had a daily escape from my life and did not face up to it, nor did I face up to some of the problems that I had from childhood, some of the problems from my marriage, I did not deal with anything. Maybe I would sit and tell people my problems when I was drinking. That was probably a great unloading. But most of what was going on internally. There were a lot of secrets about the drinking in my marriage. Oh my God, the look good was really a big effort. So I don't think anyone really knew what was going on for me. I did have an older sister who had many, many years of sobriety at the time that I got sober. And I always knew when I was around her that she really knew the truth. So that's a little background to my drinking, and I could probably write a book about all that. But I'll come up to the time of how I got sober. I was finishing up a college degree at the age of 48. My oldest son, Nick, was graduating from college. I had twins that were graduating from high school. My marriage was ending. And then suddenly my dad died, and he had been a really big part of my life. He had been the go-to guy, the happy guy, the person that helped and supported me in every way. He died suddenly of a heart attack. The aftermath was so painful that I could hardly stand it. It was very, very lonely in that place. So about a week or two after he died, I was sitting drinking some lovely alcohol, something bad. Anyway, it was really cheap, like $6 a bottle at the time. And I was drinking some, and I realized that the alcohol could no longer touch any pain in my life. And that was a big turning point, and that was the last drink I ever had. Now, I'd had a lot of experience with 12-step programs because I had spent a lot of years focused on my husband Dave's drinking. Which makes sense. Why not? You don't have to worry about yourself. And so I'd been going to Al-Anon at that point for many years. I decided I was going to suck it up and go into one. I just felt like that was the end of my life, the worst thing I could possibly do. So I walked into my first AA meeting. It was amazing that I opened my mouth and said, I have 24 hours. And people in AA love the newcomer that walks in the door and has the guts to say that. And they just formed a circle around me, not literally there, but much of the talk that day was addressed to me. I think it's a miracle to get sober because it's not easy. It's so hard. It's so hard to take that step and to stick to it. For me, the miracle had to do with the people that engulfed me, and that was so true. I mean, people who had 2 weeks of sobriety, people who had 30 years of sobriety, they just offered love and friendship like I had never felt in my life. So it was a huge coming home.
All the times that I've been have always been just such a comfort and just mind-blowing that so many people are open-hearted and giving and, just sharing so much and connecting with people. It really is an amazing organization.
Those early days were difficult. I was advised to call people at my time when I would pour myself a glass of wine, which was about 5 o'clock. And by the way, I drank wine because I thought that was socially acceptable. That looked good. And so I would call people at around 5 and get talked off my little ledge. And then once I got talked off that ledge, I didn't have the drive to have a drink, and I got past it. And then, of course, woke up the next morning feeling so much better, had new friends, had a new place to go, and it only gets better from there. One of the best things about my early sobriety, I gotta say, AA offers this fabulous spiritual program. I was incapable of grasping that. I didn't really understand that I had to make changes in my thinking. I needed to revamp, basically, my spiritual life, everything. So I probably stayed pretty crazy for a long time. I hate to say how long because I don't want to discourage anybody. But that process of unwinding from the self-pity, the fear, all those things has been a slow, steady process. And finding a power greater than myself has been even slower. But it's coming, and I still struggle with that. It isn't the first thing that comes into my mind. But I have a lot of tools from the program. Plus, I got people who called me on my crap, who helped me, and probably the best thing was that I hooked up with a sponsor who was very insistent that we all go to meetings. And so over the 24 plus years, I have been going to anywhere from a meeting every day to now it's more like a meeting maybe twice a week, sometimes 4 times a week. I also do Al-Anon, which is a really big part of my life because I have a tendency to focus on other people, and I can have tools for that too.
It's so cool that you really connected with the AA community. So tell us some of your other tools that have helped you along the way.
I know lots of people get sober without going to AA. I think being part of that program has been very important to my sobriety because there's just a wealth of tools and of people to rely on, friendship, all that. So the tools for me, of course, are what we learn in the program around the 12 steps. First of all, being powerless. That's the step one. Of course, there's not a lot of work to be done about that because you wouldn't be on sobriety's doorstep if you weren't feeling pretty crappy and pretty powerless. And admitting powerlessness is a big task, but like I say, showing up is the beginning of that. So the second and third step are about finding a power greater than yourself. It's really interesting in the program of AA. In the 40s, the guys, Bill W. and the people that he met in those early days, were all very Christian. So I know some people are turned off by that Christian focus. I more buy into a force of goodness, a God that represents all faiths. It's just a hope that there is something out there that's bigger than us. I think it's so interesting. Nobody really knows what happens when we die. So I'm kind of on both sides of the fence on that one. However, in my experience of being sober, when I have taken that step to imagine that I have a higher power that's taking care of me, and even more importantly for me, taking care of the people that I love, I find peace in my life and hope. And I have felt that there has been results over and over and over and over. So in some of my darkest times, and when I've been able to turn to a higher power, I have reached a place of extreme gratitude about how things turned out. Megan and I talk about this often, that hard times often lead to growth. And that's certainly my experience. So this is kind of straying away from the whole topic of drinking. Once I got past about 9 months of not drinking, I lost interest. And I never wanted to go back. I was so grateful to have the new friends that I had, the support in my life, feeling great. Here's something else Megan and I have talked about, that I just kept looking in the mirror going, oh my God, you look so good. So sometimes I'll say to somebody who's recently sober, I'll say, you look fabulous. I mean, you're like a new person. And they're looking at me because they don't understand that. But at 48, I needed something to feel better about myself and to look good and to put all that wretched worrying about my drinking behind me. So being at a concert, at a bar, with people who drink is like whatever. If anything, it just makes me more grateful. Alcohol itself is like way behind me. And I think having that early modeling of frequent meetings has made a big difference in my life, because I still really like that. Okay, so I'm going to set that drinking thing aside again and talk about all the character defects, all the low self-esteem, all the previous trauma in my life, everything. Being in a tough marriage, losing that marriage, raising 4 children, everything. I have found ways to deal with all that. And over the years of being sober, I have made a lot of changes in my thinking. I wouldn't say that I'm enlightened. I would just say that I am a much more peaceful person. I can't say for sure that I can handle everything that comes up in my life, but I think I'm pretty transformed from those early years where I couldn't stand to get through an evening without some way to relax.
Oh, I just so relate to that evening drinking hour. I would just count down the hours to when I could have my first drink, which of course was never enough, and couldn't wait to have that second and third, sometimes fourth and fifth. So I really hate the label alcoholic. I feel like it has such a stigma, and I hope that that changes. I think it is changing with a lot of the sober curious movement that's going on out there today. And I just wanted to see if you could talk a little bit about what it's like pretending like you have it all together, but then on the inside knowing that you actually have a problem with alcohol.
Well, I don't think most people saw me as a big drinker. I really worked hard at making it look good. You know, the long stem glass, the chilled wine. Oh, would anyone like a glass of wine? It was a lot about hiding the fact that I really depended on a daily alcohol use. The biggest difference for me is that my kids might not have really understood why I got sober, but I'll tell you from the very get-go, they were really proud of me. And, you know, I learned in the program of AA that, you know, it was an anonymous program and all that. But try to tell young kids this, or my kids were teenagers, they'd have friends over and say, my mom's sober. And I'd be, yep. And, you know, I have been, I believe, pretty open about my sobriety. Maybe the only place that I don't talk about it is in work life, though as a landlord it has come up over and over with tenants who talk about problems in their life, and I'll say to them, well, you know, I've been sober for, you know, if it's appropriate. So I have talked about it, and it's funny also how in life, you know, when we're thrown together with people, it's not unusual to find other people who are sober and to connect over that. But I haven't been quiet about my story. So back to the big differences. I think authenticity is a really big difference. Peace, trust, a lack of self-centeredness, being able to listen to other people. Getting sober is a big step in the right direction. I think it's the gifts of change that follow when once you get sober, you're faced with your issues and you start working on them.
So you are 72, which I can't believe with how active you are and how great you look. So tell us more about, what you do in your life as a 72-year-old.
I am 72. I own some property, which I only own on a wing and a prayer from being a sober person and having a program and being able to be very calm about decision making and trusting a higher power to take care of me through all kinds of things.
And not just a couple properties. One of them is a 40-unit low-income housing development that you created.
That's right.
and manage.
Yes, a bit challenging. So I'm not really retired, but I work part-time, and I spend a lot of time with self-care because that's what you do when you're 72. I do frequent yoga, a style of yoga called Ashtanga. I row. That means I'm on in a single shell on the Willamette River, and the biggest part of it is hauling my boat in and out, which is real tricky because it's 24 feet long and catches in the breeze.
And how narrow?
It's only about, it's not about as big as my rear end, plus about 4 inches on either side. So I get to row on the river and see every kind of bird, deer. My God, the water is so soothing to me. Let's see, I've added Pilates recently. My husband's reminding me that I have 4 grandkids, which of course is just fabulous, and have been so lucky to live close to one who I've picked up after school for about 4 or 5 years, actually 5 years. And I have 3 grandchildren in North Carolina and I get to come and visit frequently. Yeah, I get to travel, and I get to travel to the Bahamas a couple times with Nick and Megan, Mexico with my daughter Claire. I spend time with my daughter Lizzie in Hood River, who's an architect and busy up there. So every one of my kids are doing something really interesting and rewarding, and I get to be part of their lives. I'll probably be 104 at least, yeah. But I won't be in a wheelchair, and I may be pumping iron, but we'll see.
To the alligators. Miss Daisy.
Mom, what do you think? You want to be part of a video?
Sure. This is very southern. The trees, the alligators, the turtles.